lot of stuff.
Ireland depends on the seas that surround her. She has over 1,900 miles of coastline. Offshore, she has responsibility for 132,000 square miles of sea. Over 90% of trade to and from this island is brought by ship. In short, Ireland's interest in the seas is well worth defending. In practice, we haven't always been prepared to pay for it. By the time the Navy was just 20 years old, it had become a national joke.
We are a seafaring nation. Defense of our land is our right. We'd fight like the devil all morning, provided we're home by the night. The cleaner, the Maeve and the Mucker, the pride of the Irish Navy. When the captain he blows on his whistle, all the sailors go home for their tea.
And things got worse, a lot worse. The Macha and the Cleana were scrapped in the late 60s, leaving just one ship to patrol Irish territorial waters of 9,000 square miles.
How many foreign boats would you get fishing in around this area?
How many? Sure, God almighty times there have been up to 150 big ships. They were about 10 mile long, you see, along the coast, and all the corvette would do was steam up and down, you see, one fella sing out to the next fella, and he was coming.
So there's no real deterrent to keep them out?
No, not at all.
And then in 1970, the Maeve broke down and was out of use for several months. Irish waters were open to all, and the Navy was on the brink of extinction. But this should come as no surprise to anyone familiar with Irish marine policy. For over 50 years after independence, Ireland had failed to buy a single ship designed for patrolling its coastline. National efforts to defend Irish waters had started off with the Helga, renamed the Murrachu, which had been used by British forces to shell the GPO during the 1916 Rising. Incredibly, it was used by the Irish government as a fisheries patrol craft until 1939. Later, old Royal Navy corvettes and minesweepers were bought on the cheap and adapted for use in Irish waters.
One of our roles has always been minesweeping, but up to now we've never had the ships with which to do it.
It wasn't until 1972 that the Navy got its first dedicated patrol vessel, the Deirdre, built at the Varome dockyard in Cork Harbour. After decades of neglect, things were starting to change on Irish waters. 1 year later, in 1973, the country was to discover just how badly it needed a navy. A merchant ship, the Claudia, had 5 tons of arms and ammunition on board when it was stopped by 3 Navy ships.
We had this boat under surveillance since yesterday, and we apprehended her in Irish territorial waters about a half a mile east of Helvick Head.
Can you tell me what type of arms she was carrying?
Certainly, there were 240 rifles, 250 small arms, and a quantity of anti-tank mines.
Do you think that these arms were destined for the IRA?
I have no opinions on that, except that certainly they were not being brought in here to shoot ducks.
If the IRA had tried to import the arms a few years earlier, the Navy wouldn't have been able to go to sea to stop them.
Thank you very much from the earliest recruit here.
Close up your boarding.
3 years later, in 1976, the decision to introduce an EEC-wide exclusive fishery zone